It's time for the Margin Matters Minute with Money Man Jason Brown.
Welcome back to Margin Matters with Jason Brown. Today we are talking about a very big hot button issue that I've heard about my entire adult life, and it's retirement. What are we doing to plan for retirement? Every time I turn on a financial radio show or podcast or TV show, all I hear about is retirement. What are you doing? How are you planning? What can you do? And now, of course, we've seen the economy change dramatically with the COVID-19 pandemic, with the economic downturn. We're seeing a lot of people's retirement plans change, especially my father, who's going to be joining us here in a second. My dad, Melvin Brown, he is going to be talking a lot about retirement because he's getting very, very close to retirement. And every year, he says he's going to retire next year. So I think he's been saying that for about a decade now. Next year, it's going to happen. He's going to retire. So I thought, who better to talk to about retirement than my father, who is actively trying to retire. So here he is. I want to introduce my father, Melvin Brown, who is 69 now. Is that right? You're 69?
Yeah.
69 years old, so he's definitely in the range of retirement. So I emailed him a bunch of questions. I'm going to pull them up here. So we'll just kind of go through. I got some scripted questions for him. So the first question is, at what point do you start planning for retirement? And some people say you should be starting at 20 years old or whatever. And sometimes that's not feasible for everybody. But for you, when did you start thinking about it or start maybe planning for this time?
I guess I started early on.
Okay.
In my 20s or 30s, but it's very difficult to do that then, because you're raising families, you're having children, you're growing in your profession, you're changing jobs sometimes, and it was very difficult for me to really stick to a plan and be able to save money like I wanted to and invest in things and things like that. And I guess I really started focusing on retirement and saving for retirement probably 15, maybe 20 years ago.
Okay. So
that was when I was established. Right. And the children had grown up some, and everything financially had kind of stabilized, so it was easier to work a budget, I guess.
Okay. So from that answer, it sounded like when you were around maybe 50 is when you got serious. But let's back up. Actually, I just thought of another question. So the world has changed in retirement planning because I think it was sometime in the 80s, back in Grandpa's day and maybe your day when you started working, there was a thing called a pension.
Yeah.
The pensions don't exist anymore.
Yep.
Where Grandpa, he would work one job for one company his entire life. And when he retired, he would get a pension from that company, paying him X amount of money for the rest of his life, basically. And those don't exist anymore. So I want to say it was sometime in the 80s where the pensions kind of dissolved, and then the 401ks were born, the Roth IRAs, the traditional IRAs. So let's talk about that real quick. When you started your career, your work world, did you see that? Were you a part of that transition from pension to 401k?
Yeah, and the first true job that I had. Well, the first true job that I had, and the second job that I had, there was a pension program. First job was for a university, and there was a program there. And second job, there was a program there for a pension. But about 5 years into that, the second company, the pension went away. I mean, it didn't go away; they just stopped it. I mean, right. you had what you had invested in it, and that was pretty much it. And any new employees coming in, everything went over to, as you say, the 401k type approach.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting. Very interesting. So you kind of lived through that transition of retirement planning, funding changes.
I guess I'll put it in a way that taking care of yourself was pretty much primary for me, because I never had enough in any of one of those pension programs to really, plan for retirement with.
Gotcha. Okay. So you still have those pensions? I mean, you got to.
This is
Maybe you use them?
I'll share a quick
Okay.
story. This
Okay.
is one that I thought about, lessons learned.
Okay, lessons learned. This is gonna be perfect.
You know, I guess on the second one, the first one basically I cashed out many
Okay.
years ago. The second one, about 4 or 5 years ago, they contacted me, and you couldn't really start it till you were 68, and
Okay.
said, you can cash out,
Okay.
or you can take your pension for the next 20 years. And I guess looking back on that, I cashed out.
Okay.
My financial advisor told me that, he said, you need to think about that very, very carefully.
Okay.
And now that I look back on it, I was late in my career, and cashing out and investing the money, there's a great deal of risk there.
Okay. Right.
Not cashing out and getting a check every month
Uh-huh.
for the rest of your life or the next 20 years is a sure thing. It's not going to go away.
Okay.
And lessons learned, if I had to make that choice again today, there probably would be very little thought about that. I would take the monthly pay, the monthly
Okay.
check,
Okay.
because it's a sure thing.
Okay.
And I probably opted out for the money too really late in my career for my investment to really pay off, or to really grow.
Okay. So since I don't know that much about pensions, does a pension does it accrue interest over time? Does it grow? Or does it just sit there and it stays the same?
Well,
How does that work?
usually on pensions, you based on the years that you were there, and it's usually a percentage of your salary or
Okay.
something like that, and you will get my understanding of the ones that I was in, you will get a check for X dollars every month.
Okay.
It doesn't change.
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And some
gotcha.
of them last until you pass.
Right.
Some of them, when you hit 68 or something like that, will run for 20 years or something like
Okay.
that.
I got you.
There's
Very
all
interesting.
different options there.
Okay.
Depending on how they set it up.
Okay, so since you mentioned getting advice from your financial planner, let's talk about that. At what point did you hire a financial planner, and why did you feel the need to hire a financial planner? And has the financial planner helped you prepare for retirement?
I guess I've had a financial planner for about 15 years.
Okay.
And that started back when I started looking seriously at planning for retirement, because I did not understand, the markets, the mutual funds, the investments that you could do in all that type of information, the stock market, things of that nature. So I felt that I needed, someone that could guide me, help me set up plans, help me set goals, help me identify how much money I need to be putting away each week, each month, each pay period to reach what I felt was what I needed to retire, how much money I needed.
Okay, so that's a perfect segue to the next question.
Okay.
How much money, is there a certain amount of money you are targeting to save or invest before retirement? And you see this all over the internet, all these financial websites, they have these retirement calculators that
Yeah.
you can plug your numbers in, and everyone has this number in their head, whatever it is,
Yeah.
1 million, 2 million,
Yeah.
1.5 million. I need to save $1.5 million by the time I'm 50 in order, and they have the benchmark. So if you want to retire at 50 or 60 or 70, I mean, a lot of these people now, these millennials, they're trying to retire at 35 and 40 years old, and they want to save $2 million by the time they're 40 years old, and then they can just retire and do whatever they want to do for the rest of their life. So does your financial planner, has he given you some benchmarks like that?
Yeah, he's given me some. I mean, we talked through it. I guess my benchmark came back was a back calculation. This is how much I feel I need to have in retirement to live on. Here's how much Social Security is going to pay me. Here's how much additional money I need to have with the investments, paying me that additional money with Social Security, so that I could live comfortably, not necessarily lavishly, but comfortably.
Okay, good. This is good. You're hitting all the transitions. So you mentioned Social Security. Okay, so you're 69 now. So explain to those younger like myself how Social Security works. What age can you start drawing Social Security, and have you started drawing yours yet?
Yeah.
Because I hear the longer you wait, the more money you
Yeah.
get. Explain all that and what you're doing.
And I guess, I'm not a Social Security expert, but you can start drawing at 65.
Okay.
And the longer you wait to start drawing, the more you get from out of Social Security. In my situation, it was driven by two things. I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy my job. I felt that I was still contributing. I felt that I was still enjoying going to work and doing the things that I do every day. And also, that was certainly one factor. And the longer you wait to draw it, the more money you get. And, you said I was 69. The jump, when you hit 70, there is a big jump, at least for me, in how much Social Security I get. And, looking at it, I just, I've been, as you said, thinking about retirement for 3 or 4 years. And, the last 2 years, I've really started thinking about it seriously. And, looking at sitting down with a financial counselor about a year and a half ago, it just kind of made sense for me just to work another year and a half and hit 70 before I start drawing. My health is good. I enjoy what I'm doing,
Right.
And so that was what drove, those two factors are what drove my decision.
Okay.
If I was unhappy at work and things like that, I would have probably retired earlier, even if it meant a little bit less money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Social Security.
Yeah.
You have to, when you get to 70 is the latest you can wait. Is that correct? I think at 70 you have to.
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think there's a date. We can look this up and put it in the comments or whatever. But I think it's 70. You get to a certain age. You can't just keep waiting. Like you get to a certain age and you have to start drawing.
Yeah, you have to. I'm not sure, and it may not grow anymore either.
That's right.
Yeah.
Now, do you have to not be working to draw Social Security?
You're again asking my opinion. This is from my understanding. You can draw Social Security.
Okay.
I could have started drawing Social Security, but your income tax, there's a big difference of how much income tax you pay on your income if you're retired and if you're working.
Right. Okay.
And it would look at it from my understanding as additional income, and I'm sure there's some financial break, but anyway,
Gotcha.
I'm not an expert there.
Okay. I hear you. Okay, so the next question is, well, first of all, you didn't answer my question about what is your target number? Do you mind? Are you okay with sharing that? Like,
I'm not sure I want to.
Okay,
share
you don't
my
want to share that.
target.
That's okay. That's okay. 'Cause, I mean, I think the general target numbers that I see are at least $1.25 million that people want to save to retire, and then you save up enough money, and then that, it accrues the interest. You're getting returns on it.
Yeah.
It could be anywhere between 7% and sometimes up to 12%, depending on what investments you're in. And then you can just draw. Is it the dividends? You're just living off
something.
You're
like
living
that,
off what you're making,
Yeah.
and you can just leave the bulk of the money in there. Okay, that's cool. Let's go to the next one. That's real topical right now. Is the pandemic. So.
Yeah.
How has your timeline changed, if at all, with what's going on with the pandemic? I know when the pandemic started, most people lost about 30% of their retirement or investment accounts, and that really hurts people like yourself the most, because you're actually you're trying to retire right now. Now, someone like me who might be working for 20 more years, it doesn't really matter because the economy is going to change a million times over the next 20 years. But for you, how has that affected you?
Yeah, it's certainly a concern. It was certainly a major issue for me, and yes, I was in that range. I was 25-something% that my 401ks went down. All my other investments were impacted that way, and I stepped back and started thinking about can I retire when I want to retire, and it's fortunately the stock market, the market has come back strong very quickly. In my personal opinion, I hope it stays that way. I've just in the last several months, I've made up a lot of loss. I don't know if I was just in the right place at the right time, but at this point in time, it hasn't changed my plans. And yeah, I may not have quite as much money as I hoped I would have, but I'm still sticking with my plan.
That's actually really good news and very encouraging news for hopefully a lot of other people right now that are in your situation that are trying to retire over the next year to 2 years and may have been very concerned about the economic downturn. So that's good. So here's one more question, one of our last questions here. Do you have a percent? Do you target a percent of your income that you're trying to save or invest? Do you have that set like in your?
Well, yeah.
Like for me, I do. We have our company stock, and then we have the 401k. So I do 10% into each. So I'm saving 20% of my check for retirement. 10% in the company stock, 10% in the 401k. Do you have any benchmarks like that you try to?
Early on, I did, and as you grow and as the family grows and moves out of the house, you get more income, not necessarily more income, but more fluid income that you can invest in things like that. And it's always, for me, just been kind of a rolling, it's rolled up as time has moved on. And yes, I try and put 25 or 30% in, and usually this is the way I do it. I get paid every 2 weeks. What's left in the checking account after the 2 weeks goes into savings, goes into my savings account. I put as much as I possibly can into my company 401k. I buy as much stock as I can from the company, and I in other investments I just put as much as I possibly can into them.
Sounds great. 2 more questions, and you kind of answered one of them already with the lessons learned.
Yeah.
Do you have any is there anything you wish you would have done differently besides the one example? Are there any other things that maybe in an investment, I should have bought Apple stock when it was $5 a share? Of course, we all wish that. But was there any opportunities that you may have missed on or something that you may have done differently?
I think I should have gotten a lot more disciplined with my savings and investments earlier on in my career. I think I should have had a financial counselor, instead of, a lot sooner than I actually reached out and got one. But it kind of goes back to what I started out with. I mean, when you're young and you're starting a family and you're getting married, I just didn't have the discipline or, there's so many unknowns, so many risks that happen to you in that stage of your life. I did the best I could, but, it probably could have been better.
I hear you. Okay, this is the last question. What advice can you give me or the younger generation regarding retirement? So what can you tell us, what you just said was really good advice as well, but any other advice for your grandkids, for Maddox and Cameron and Eowyn and all your grandkids, what can they start thinking about doing?
I think, and I touched on it, that, with my lessons learned, keep track of how much time is left before you retire. Make wise decisions. The stock market, it's a long run. Investments are for a long duration, and if there are things that happen late in life, think about them, because sometimes it's, I'll just take that money and put it in my investments. Well, maybe it's not such a wise idea, because the pandemic, the stock market going down, was kind of the reality check for me when I look back and said, gee, if I'd have known this was going to happen, there would have not even been a second thought. I would have been getting a monthly check from my retirement. I mean, it wouldn't have been much, but it would have been secure.
Right.
And it would have been that I would have known for the next 20 years that I'm going to get X dollars in the mail every month. And as you get closer to retirement, in my thought, that's important. That's important. You know, it stabilizes your income.
Okay, one more question. I keep saying
more
last question. This is the last question. When are you actually going to retire? Do you have a concrete plan?
I have
It is the year 2020. What year is it going to be? What is your plan with your financial advisor? I know you guys are working together.
I have a plan, and I hate to commit myself.
Right.
I'm looking at next year, 2021.
Okay.
Okay.
Fair enough.
Not going to say when in 2021
Right, okay.
yet,
It's
but
a
yeah,
long year.
looking at 2021.
Okay, well that's good. So you'll be 70. So
Yep.
that's your target age.
Yeah.
That was going to actually one of my questions was.
I'll be
so
able to
70,
get the max out of Social Security, or that bump in Social Security, and hopefully I'll have another 6, 8, 10, 12 months, whatever, for the stock market to come back. I'm very
Right.
hopeful that it will continue to do what it's doing and continue to grow, and I will have recouped all my losses, I hope, and this is a lot of hope in there, but we'll see what it does.
That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Mr.
thank
Melvin
you.
Brown, my father here. This has been extremely helpful for me, and I hope very helpful and encouraging and hopeful for anybody watching this that's trying to plan for retirement, trying to figure out what to do. This is Jason Brown saying to remember, check out my website, yourmarginmatters.com, for more of my blogs, information on my book, videos like this. You can find all of that there. So thank you so much for watching. Don't forget my favorite saying, it's not the amount of money you make, but the margin that matters the most. See you next time.